Hello and welcome to Berlin for the preview show of rounds 9 and 10 of season 10 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. I'm Saunders CB and I'm now joined by one of the faces and voices of American motorsport and now Formula E. Georgia, welcome back to the preview show.
Thank you so much. It is so good to be here. And speaking of which, isn't this Berlin track one of the most visited cities of Formula E history?
Absolutely is. There is no city on this planet that has hosted more Formula E races than Berlin. There was one in the city, all the rest have been here in Tempelhof. It's been a location that's been so decisive on someone's championship win. A lot of points up for grabs this weekend.
Well, what are we going to see in this episode? We're going to talk about a lot of drivers that are filling really big shoes this weekend, and we're also going to talk about the rookie test on Monday.
Yeah, okay, cool. Tom Brooks is going to be talking us through this new circuit configuration here in Tempelhof, and we're going to hear what the drivers have to think about it too.
And speaking of which, this season has been so exciting already. Our very own Saunders CB is giving us a preview as what has already happened halfway through the season.
It felt like deja vu in the opening 2 rounds as Pascal Wehrlein and reigning champion Jake Dennis took the first 2 wins of the season in Mexico and Diriyah. But consistency was key, and after 3 rounds only one driver had been on every podium, Jaguar driver Nick Cassidy. Going into Brazil, the target was on Cassidy's back and one eye was on those that had stepped things up a notch since the previous season, the Nissan-powered Nissan and Neon McLaren teams. The energy management madness of Sao Paulo rewarded the bravery of McLaren driver Sam Bird's last lap overtake with victory. Jaguar's Mitch Evans and Nissan's Oliver Rowland beside him on the podium. The first new circuit of the season, a home race for Nissan in Tokyo, made even better by a second pole position and 3rd podium in a row for Oliver Rowland. But it was another different driver on the top step as Maximilian Günther took the win for Maserati MSG Racing. Jake Dennis completed the podium trying to get back to his record-breaking form of last season. The days of a 2-powertrain race seemingly behind us as Nissan and Stellantis Power pulsed their way up the championship order, heading into a run of European races. A doubleheader with no shortage of controversy in Misano saw a timely resurgence for Antonio Felix da Costa, crossing the line first, only later to be disqualified by the FIA. Rowland inherited the win, making it 4 consecutive podiums, and Tokyo race winner Günther took 3rd. 24 hours later, and drama on the last lap saw Rowland out of usable energy and sliding down the order. Pascal Wehrlein took his 2nd win of the season, putting himself level on points with Dennis, who finished 2nd going into Monaco. And a return to the podium after 3 races brought Nick Cassidy back into the fold. Jaguar TCS Racing dominated Monte Carlo, reminding us of their title intentions. A 1-2 for the team, with Mitch Evans earning his first win of the season, followed by the driver with more podiums than any this season, Nick Cassidy. 3rd place was Stoffel van Dorn for DS Penske, his first podium since his championship win in Season 8. A strong result for the other Stellantis-powered team, proving what was once a fight between 2 manufacturers may now be a battle between 5. This is one of the most competitive seasons in the championship's history. 25 points separate the top 5 at the halfway stage, and there is all to play for.
Wow, I mean, I cannot believe we are already 8 races into this championship. And speaking of championship, it's kind of starting to be the time to think about who's going to take that championship top spot. How influential is this weekend going to be?
I personally think it's huge. I think Berlin has always been very decisive, and I think now where we are in the season, especially so. So when I'm thinking about who is in the running for that, there's still obviously a lot of points up for grabs, a lot that can change, but just looking at consistency, coming off the back of that 1-2 in Monaco, the Jaguar pairing, we knew it was going to be strong at the start of the season. It started that way. Nick Cassidy was on the podium first 3 races, a bit of a drop, and then now they're back stronger than ever. I think this could be a really, really big weekend for them. Also the likes of Jake Dennis, I think doing well here is very important for his championship. He knows that all too well because in the second race here last season, he got a podium, and it started this massive record-breaking momentum that led ultimately to his title. So I think it's very influential.
There are so many switches going on around in the paddock right now. Let's talk for a moment about Envision racing.
Sure, because this is a big weekend for two people, Paul Aaron, Joel Eriksson. They have the opportunity to race here in a double header, secure a lot of well-needed points for the Envision team. There's a lot at stake there. It's a huge opportunity, and I sat down with the two of them to find out what they're making of it. Paul, Joel, thanks very much for joining me. Let's chat this weekend because, first of all, this is a huge opportunity, isn't it?
It is, definitely. Yeah, it's true. It's simple also, yes. I mean, obviously it's the second time for me on the grid. I did a few races back in season 7 with Dragon Penske, but now I've been looking for an opportunity to go back. And yeah, finally got it here now in Berlin, so yeah, I mean, very, very excited and mostly happy to get the opportunity.
Because Paul, it's also quite a unique opportunity, the way that it sort of presented itself. Also, especially for you, because your experience prior to now is just the rookie test. So how does it feel, getting this opportunity?
Yeah, it's actually the rookie free practice, not the test, so
yes.
It's even less time. And like Joe said, just jumping into the car is very difficult, especially in the championship like Formula E, which is really competitive, and the tracks are very different to what drivers are normally used to.
I mean, I think the words baptism of fire feel like a bit of an understatement, because you're going into a weekend in the middle of the season for a team that are currently reigning teams champions. So just to continue with you, Paul, your experience in that rookie free practice, what did you take from it? What surprised you the most about Formula E?
I mean, to be honest, the car surprised me because obviously you are running not slick tires, and obviously the car is electric, so it has a lot of torque and not that much downforce. So I was expecting less grip, to be honest, than there was. So I was happily surprised, let's say. But I guess the biggest surprise for anyone who comes into Formula E is just how complex the car is and all the systems you need to manage. And there's much more going on than just driving. And the driving part is actually the easier part. That's the natural thing. And then managing all the systems and being on the radio with your engineer, it's a lot more than anything I've been used to. So that was definitely the biggest surprise, and I think that's why simulator work and preparation is so important here, because the more you get comfortable with that cognitive strain, then the easier it is to actually focus on the driving.
Cognitive strain, that's a great way of putting it. And Joel, you know that because your experience goes a little bit further. Your role within Jaguar setup as a reserve and test and development driver, you know a lot about how the sims work and how influential they are on a race weekend, but also your experience actually racing in the championship as well. In terms of the things that make this championship so unique, energy management being the main one, how different is that coming from different categories into Formula E?
Very different. I mean, I'm used to GT3 racing, so I'm not really on the, let's say, managing fuel and stuff like this. So that's why it's also like kind of a change for me going into Formula E again, where you really need to take care of the energy in the car. But as I said, I'm spending a lot of time in Jaguar Simulator in between the races, doing race preparations and correlation after the races and stuff. So yeah, I've had plenty of practices before coming here. You
can learn a lot in the simulator, but can quickly just go down the drain within lap 1 in a Formula E race, depending on what happens. But you have a bit of experience in that. You've, I imagine, watched a lot of it and now about to get involved. What's your expectations there? Because it's not an easy championship to race in.
No, definitely not. Like you said, obviously, there's the energy management bit, which is very different to anything else. I guess in endurance racing you have fuel management, but that's not something I've come across yet in my career. And I'm just used to, flat out racing, just managing the tires, but that's nothing compared to the energy management you need to do here. And I've followed the team in Misano and Monaco, and I'm quite familiar now with this peloton style racing that you guys call it around this paddock. And yeah, it's definitely different to anything else. And normally in a race you have maybe 2-3 times you go 2 or 3 wide into a corner. Half the race you are side by side with someone. So it's definitely something new to manage.
Have you had any conversations with the team, with Silvan, about targets, what you're aiming for this weekend?
We're aiming for points because we know we have a strong powertrain with the Jag powertrain. So we know we can be efficient in the race if we drivers are really up to speed. And as I said before, we just need to have a clean weekend. Need to get as many laps as possible, collect the data for the team, and just have a clean race and be smart.
Yeah, I mean, I agree in a sense with Joe's answer, and I would say Sylvain and Leon and the whole team has made it very clear that there are no clear expectations. They know how difficult it is to come in without ever being in the car. And I think for me, it's all about gaining as much experience as possible. I mean, I'm still very young and I'm in the early part of my career, and I think obviously those guys want to evaluate how I do as well. So maybe even if, you know, the results are not that good on paper, if they see a lot of potential, then probably they're going to be happy. So for me, it's just about learning as much as I can.
A full-time race seat in Formula E is something that would interest you both, I'm sure.
That's something that interests everyone. You know, there's not many top-tier championships outside of endurance racing. In the end, there is Formula 1, Formula E and IndyCar. And I think Formula E is definitely one of the top options there. And if you ask any of the young drivers or any drivers in the GT world, I think everyone is interested in this paddock.
Well, it's a big weekend ahead. We're looking very much forward to seeing what you can do. Paul, Joel,
Thank you.
thanks for the chat.
Thank you very much.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Saunders CB, for that. Also joining us, a familiar face around the Formula E paddock, it's John Jackson, the host of Formula E's coverage on the radio. John, there are also some new faces this season in the paddock this weekend. Can you tell us about them?
Yeah, well, we have Kelvin van der Linde, who's returning. He did a handful of races last year, standing in for Robin Freins when he hurt his hand. Jordan King makes his debut for Mahindra, and Jordan King has been around for so long. He told me 1,000 laps on track and tens of thousands of laps on the simulator, and he's still just making his debut now. He's been around the paddock for a long time, hasn't he?
Well, it's amazing. The idea that we're calling them stand-ins, they're filling in for drivers that aren't here, but their experience, apart from Paul Aaron, who, as you said, has only had that free practice session, they have so much simulator experience, which is a huge part of the work coming into a race weekend in Formula E. You know, 1,000 laps. I mean, he's doing it for a few seasons. Joel Eriksson obviously has had a couple of races as well. So in terms of who might be able to stand in and do a good job, I don't really think there's many that could do it better.
I also think Jordan King is one of the most versatile drivers in the world, because I'm sure you know this. He's driven IndyCar, F1, Formula E, he'll make his debut this weekend. He's driven endurance cars, he's driven all the junior series as well. He's probably driven tons of different road cars. He loves racing, and I think he's doing Formula E this weekend. He's going to complete the series, isn't he? That's it now. There's no more racing series he can do unless he starts racing on ice or rallying. Maybe has no rallying yet. Yeah.
I mean, I'm very excited to see what each of the stand-ins could do. But also, in terms of new faces or returning faces, Monday we have an entire grid of rookie drivers doing a rookie free practice. Who are you looking for?
I kind of navigate towards the F2 drivers that are doing really well at the moment, and we're so lucky because we have the number 1 driver and the number 2 driver. So we have Zane Maloney, who's obviously with Andretti, doing amazing things with Rodin in F2, currently the championship leader. And then we have Paul Aaron coming in, second in the championship, and as you've already alluded to, very last minute decision for him to be here. But we've got, a brand new track, so he's on a level playing field, and he's the kind of guy, Estonian, just like he's like a king in Estonia, and he's only like 19 or 20 years old, and he's coming into this, and he's got the most level head, a little bit like Taylor Barnard, just like I'm just going to get in the car, don't have any experience, I'm just going to absolutely go for it from the start, and I love that about him. So for me, the F2 drivers are the ones to look for in the rookie test.
And then again, also talking about F2 success, you've got the likes of Felipe Drugovich, the guy that won that championship only a season ago, 2 seasons ago?
A couple of seasons ago, because he was here last year, wasn't he, in the rookie test? So
smashed
it completely.
Super successful in single season already, and then I always think it's kind of an injustice calling them rookies, because the level of experience that coming into a day of Formula E testing is so high, like Sheldon van der Linde as well. There's quite a few new faces as well, but we will be getting more into that on other social media content on the channel. But it's exciting to see some new opportunities given to good drivers.
I'm also excited for the Fittipaldi name to be continued into Formula E. We've seen Emerson, his grandfather, around the paddock at a couple of races this year. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Enzo can bring to the series, because he's been impressive so far in the racing he's been doing elsewhere. Yeah,
I mean, huge names, a lot of talent. Also need to mention the likes of Alice Powell and Marta Garcia as well, racing or rookie testing. Which is really good, especially Marta, because she's coming off the back of actually racing this weekend, straight into doing a rookie test.
Yeah, and she's a reigning champion as well.
And she's a reigning champion of the F1 Academy. So there's huge names, lots to look forward to. We could be talking about the rookies for this entire show, but we've got other stuff we need to get into ahead of this Berlin doubleheader.
Well, and new really seems to be the theme of the weekend, because it's an all-new track layout. So here to talk about a little bit more, Tom Brooks.
The 9th and 10th rounds of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship are held in Berlin in Germany, the last European stop on our calendar for this year until the finale in London in July. And this is the Tempelhof track, a former commercial airport now hosting Formula E cars, and you can see the circuit anti-clockwise down the start-finish straight into the left-handed kink of Turn 1. Turn 2 is where attack mode will be activated before we head left, then right, and then along this long straight with a kink in it into the braking zone of Turn 6. A great overtaking opportunity, and and where we've seen drama aplenty. Likewise, turn 9, that left-handed hairpin, you can really send one up the inside. And then we go through the left-handed kink of turn 11 before we go left pretty much all the way until the end of the lap before turn 15. A slight right down the start-finish straight, and that is the circuit here at Berlin. 2.585 kilometres, 15 turns in total, and I'm sure there will be drama aplenty as we wait for the championship to take another twist for season 10.
And thank you so much, Tom Brooks. Guys, you have former experience at this track, but now with the new layout, what is your first impressions?
Well, I think it's interesting. It's definitely going to be faster, but there are a few little bits. I mean, you had a bit of a walk earlier to see. Well, what was your impression? Because I haven't actually done a walk yet.
Yeah, so my first impression on the track walk was that the start-finish straight is very narrow, so that's going to be really interesting, you know, with drivers trying to make up places straight away. But also, you see the 200-metre board is very, very close to the start-finish straight. So that first corner, the famous plane corner, as I'm calling it, that may not be the official name, it comes up very quickly, which is a complete contrast to the old layout.
Well, yeah, because the good thing about Tempelhof in general is there are multiple racing lines. There isn't one. I mean, there'll be one fixed one in terms of like dirty track and non-dirty track, but in terms of how you can get the most out of it, there are different ways of doing it. And in that first corner in previous seasons, there used to basically be at 2 lines. You could go really wide or you could hug the inside corner. Now you've got no choice. It's too narrow going into a big hairpin. So that first corner and the first lap is going to be super, super interesting. I think the main reasons they've obviously tried to change it is because they can. Like, we're in a completely, you know, it's a facility here that allows you to customize the racetrack. And now I think they've made it a bit faster, they made it a bit more suitable for Gen 3 cars. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out.
Now, with all of these things considered, does experience play a factor at a doubleheader like this?
Well, previously in the past, because this is a circuit that's been raced on so much, and so many drivers have, you know, season after season, we're talking maybe some of them with 17, 18 races of experience.
Yeah.
But because of this configuration change, it completely levels the playing field again. Everyone's learning it again in the sim fresh. They can take certain data from, you know, the surface, but in terms of balance setup, it's straight back a reset, and that's great for the standings.
It's also pretty unique that it's an incredibly flat track. Obviously a former airfield, we've got drainage vents there on the floor.
Yeah.
I think they're called drains. And obviously, you know, these young drivers, something I've noticed when I've worked a lot with them in the junior series is that this won't phase them at all. You know, there's no undulation, there's no difference in gradient, whatever. They'll get in these cars, they'll get used to the cars, the lap times will start to come down. They could have never driven this track before, and you'll just see seconds come off those lap times as they get used to it, they get comfortable with it. And although the older, more experienced drivers will have the edge, I still think, because they're used to these conditions, they're used to the very unique surface here, I still think the young drivers that are making their debuts or racing like Taylor Barnard is for the second time, I think they'll be up there and they'll be challenging.
I actually am inclined to agree because of a wider point that I've been thinking about recently. So I remember back in, you know, season 3, season 4, season 5, my early days in Formula E, we used to make a lot of content about rookies versus veterans. And usually the veterans pretty much always came out on top because the energy management side, you know, it's a completely different style of racing that they had to be able to adapt to, and someone with a lot of experience could, like, you know, Degrassi or something would do better in that sense. But I think when pretty much Nick Cassidy, Jake Dennis, their arrival in the championship created a new narrative for me that I think you can be a rookie. When I say rookie, I don't mean young or inexperienced, I mean just new to Formula E, and really do well in your first season. Like, Jake Dennis was challenging for the title in his first season in Formula E. It's only a few seasons later that he actually went on to win it. Berlin has historically been a bit of a breeding ground for new drivers in Formula E, like where they've had success, where they've done rookie tests, where they can experience things like the surface. One thing actually to add on the surface is it is so abrasive, but because the Formula E tyre is so durable, they don't really even have to factor in tyre management that much, which is obviously a bit of a hindering point for new drivers in a new championship, but that completely goes out the window. Energy management is where it's all at. But I do believe that we are seeing a bit of a tide change. That maybe, you know, people newer to Formula E are able to really bring the competition to those veteran drivers.
Well, guys, this is very juicy stuff. You have now heard what they have to say, but now let's hear what our drivers have to say.
Yeah, it's great to be in Berlin, home race for us, for the team and for myself. You know, historic city, and yeah, looking forward to drive on that track. It will be a new one this year.
This time, of course, we're going to a new layout, which is good in a way. It's always good when we go to these kind of tracks that nobody knows. It's new for everybody. Like I had last year as my rookie season, we had many new tracks, and most of the time we had a good race, you know, in new track layouts.
Yeah, looking at the layout, I think it's still going to promote lots of overtaking. I think there's still plenty of opportunities into the big braking zones to make the passes, which count. So I suspect it's going to be an exciting race. Yeah, one what the fans will seriously enjoy and one what the drivers will have a good feeling with. One of the biggest things is that the surface is staying the same, so that's ultimately really good knowledge for us that the tyre is going to be behaving the same way, but ultimately with it being a new track, it's a bit of an unknown for all of us. A lot of simulator work will be taking place going into it.
Last year, before I went there for the first race, the team told me, oh, you have to be careful with tire degradation. The surface is very aggressive, let's say, abrasive for the tires, so you need to be quite careful with it. And it's true, I got the experience that last year where on the first few laps, if you're too aggressive with the tires, they're having a very hard time to not have a lot of degradation. So I think the key is firstly to be fast on track, but also knowing how to manage your tire degradation, because the surface is a very aggressive one for the tire and the car.
Honestly, Tempelhof is a really unique track. It's just obviously just the location it's in around the airfield, a really strange surface, really abrasive, kind of gives a lot of grip, but also very peaky grip. Yeah, hopefully we're competitive there, because obviously two races around the same venue, you have to be on your game, and the car's going to be working well to be able to maximize the weekend.
I mean, the preparation is always the same. You go to the simulator trying to analyze the track, the condition as well, because last year, for example, we got some wet conditions, so obviously everything, the plan, the strategies, the setup of the car is different, but by going to the simulator, like after a few laps, you just know the track, and after you just try to set up your system and energy management around it.
No, it's cool. It's cool. I mean, Germans in general are quite passionate about motorsport, and I think it's quite cool to be racing there. Last year there was a huge support of many fans, let's say. Unfortunately, the weather wasn't mega last year. I think we had a day with a lot of rain and stuff. But even though with the rain, we still had a lot of support, a lot of fans coming, and they're great. They're passionate. They're funny, also quite crazy. I found them really cool.
Berlin, we will expect a lot of support. Many members from Porsche which don't have the chance probably to travel to other races, they will be in Berlin and supporting us, and also for myself, I know that there's a lot of friends and family coming to that race, so yeah, really looking forward to it. We want to put a good show for them and be successful.
And it most certainly is going to be an exciting weekend here at Berlin. So guys, now for another exciting part. Predictions for this weekend.
Yes. Well, Berlin famously is probably one of the most unpredictable circuits in Formula E. This season we've got a new circuit to lay out to contend with. That might make it even more unpredictable, but we're going to have a go at making some predictions. I really am drawn to Jaguar or Porsche Power. Now I know that sounds really obvious because of where they've been in the season this year, but also last season, but I just think, not even based on last season having a Jag 1-2, I think here, I think they're, in the narrative of this season, I think it's just a Jaguar Porsche story again. I think Nick Cassidy's on a real bounce back. I think we could expect to see good things from Nick Cassidy, maybe Mitch Evans, but also the likes of Jake Dennis, Pascal Wehrlein. I mean, yeah, I'm going to just go with those two powertrains because I can't separate them at the moment, but I think they are the two strongest teams here.
I'm going to throw Jake Hughes into the mix because I feel like he's made some real progress this year, but also his football team, Aston Villa, had a crushing defeat in the Europa Conference League, so he's going to be a bit upset. He's going to have to right those and have some success from the West Midlands, represent the West Midlands. But I think actually Antonio Felix da Costa, who I know, you'll know all the stats here, has got some great history here at this track. Not getting that race win back at Misano, right, he's got a big smile on his face. He was there playing football with Porsche versus Andretti the other day and he was having a great time. But behind that big beaming smile, there is a driver who's competitive. There's a burning desire to actually get that race win. It's been, since Cape Town last year, since his last points win. I know he crossed the line first. So I think Antonio's going to be really up for it this weekend. And I think, for the Porsche powertrain, that's going to be really important. So my heart says Jake, my head says Antonio.
Both good shouts because, we can't not talk about how the improvements that the Nissan powertrain has made, both with Neil McLaren and Nissan, it's just been better and better and better. Like the consistency they've shown, either with Oliver Rowland or with the likes of Sam Bird, Jake Hughes, they've been very good, very good. And then the likes of Antonio Felix da Costa, like you said, happy hunting ground is an understatement for here. He won his championship here in season 6. He completely dominated the first few races of those 6 races during COVID. So yeah, very good shout. I'm going to throw another prediction in there. I've just thought of DS Penske. The Phil Charles effect. In terms of strategy, this is a very strategy sensitive race here, very energy hungry here in Berlin. And I think someone like Phil Charles, he knows how to do well in those races. And looking just back at Monaco, it was a podium and then a 4th place for Diaz Penske, looking very strong.
I'm going Oliver Rowland. I think he has had a successful season so far. It's hard to deny that. And then also he's got momentum coming into this weekend. So I think he's been strong all season long. You said he's won here before.
He won here in season 6 as well, yeah.
So I'm going Oliver Rowland.
Excellent, we mentioned every team. Shout out to ERT and Maserati as well.
Günther.
Yeah. Dan ticked him, he's going to win today.
Basically, it could be anyone's game, and I think that's a great spot for Formula E to be in. Each and every weekend, you don't know who is going to win, and they have to be on their A game each and every time they hit the track. Guys, it is going to be an exciting weekend nonetheless. You can head over to the Formula E website to figure out where to watch this weekend, but nonetheless, Season 10, it's on.
Berlin, we're ready to go flying around the Tempelhof. With a wide track and speedy straights, Tempelhof provides plenty of overtaking opportunities. And a step closer to that title. So fasten your seatbelts, Berlin. We're about to take off.